The season is finally here, and you can feel that energy building again around the New York Yankees. There is something different about opening day, something that hits every fan the same way no matter how many years you've been watching. The uniforms, the anticipation, the feeling that anything is possible again. But at the same time, there's a strange frustration creeping into the experience, and it's hard to ignore. Watching your team used to be simple, something you could rely on without thinking twice, and now it feels like you need to navigate a maze just to catch the first pitch of the year. It's honestly unbelievable how complicated things have become when it comes to following your favorite team. What used to be a straightforward experience has turned into a juggling act between multiple streaming platforms, each holding a piece of the season hostage. One night, it is on one service. The next game is somewhere else. And suddenly fans are being asked to subscribe to what feels like half a dozen different platforms just to stay connected. For the most passionate supporters, they will find a way. They always do. But what about the casual fan who just wants to sit down and enjoy a game without jumping through hoops? That's where the disconnect starts to grow. Because while the league and networks are clearly chasing bigger revenue, the viewing experience is becoming less accessible. The reality is that money is driving these decisions. And as long as companies are willing to invest heavily for exclusive rights, this trend is not going anywhere. It creates a situation where the most important moments, even something as symbolic as the first game of the season, are no longer easily available to everyone. Instead of bringing fans together, it almost feels like it is creating barriers. Still, despite all of that noise surrounding how the games are being broadcast, once the focus shifts to the field, everything changes. The Yankees stepping onto the diamond always commands attention, and this matchup brings an intriguing pitching duel right out of the gate. Max Fried takes the ball with a lot of expectations on his shoulders, especially considering the role he played last season. When the team needed stability, particularly during stretches without their ace, he delivered consistently and proved why he was such a valuable addition. Looking back at his performance, it is hard not to be impressed by the level he maintained throughout the regular season. He was reliable, efficient, and gave the team a chance to win almost every time he took the mound. That kind of consistency is exactly what you want from a top-of-the-rotation arm, especially in a season filled with uncertainty due to injuries. Even though the postseason did not fully reflect that same dominance, the bigger picture still points to a pitcher who can lead a staff when needed. Now, with Garrett Cole temporarily out of the picture, Fried steps into that spotlight again, and all eyes are on how he handles it this time around. There is confidence that Cole will return later in the season, but until that moment comes, the responsibility shifts, and it is not a small one. Opening day sets the tone, not just for the team, but for individual players trying to establish momentum early, and Fried has the opportunity to do exactly that against a strong opponent. At the same time, roster decisions are already creating conversation, especially when it comes to the outfield situation. The Yankees made some last-minute adjustments, bringing in depth pieces while trying to balance experience with potential. It is always a tricky situation when younger players show promise, especially after strong spring performances, but are blocked by established names with significant contracts. That dynamic can create tension, not just within the roster, but also among fans who want to see fresh talent get a real opportunity. There is no denying the excitement surrounding prospects who have been making noise with their performances. When players step up and produce, especially in spring training, it naturally raises expectations. Fans start to wonder if this is the moment when the team should take a leap of faith and give them a chance at the highest level. But baseball decisions are rarely that simple, and financial commitments often play a major role in shaping the roster, sometimes delaying opportunities that seem deserved. This is where the situation becomes complicated, because performance and potential do not always align with roster flexibility. Veterans are given time to prove their value, especially when there is significant investment involved, and that can limit the immediate impact of younger talent waiting in the wings. It creates a scenario where patience becomes necessary, even when the excitement is pushing in the opposite direction. At the end of the day, the path for those younger players often depends on how others perform ahead of them. If opportunities open up due to struggles or injuries, that is when the door finally swings open. Until then, it becomes a waiting game, one where consistency at the minor league level becomes the key to staying ready. And as the season begins to unfold, those storylines will continue to develop, shaping not just the roster, but the identity of the team moving forward. As the season starts to take shape, one of the biggest storylines around the Yankees continues to be roster flexibility and how the organization plans to balance veterans with rising talent. Every year, there are players who force the conversation with strong performances, and this season feels no different. The front office has clearly built a roster with depth in mind, but depth also creates difficult decisions, especially when multiple players are competing for limited spots. Over the course of a long season, those decisions often end up defining how successful the team can be. One situation that continues to generate discussion is the outfield rotation and how playing time will be distributed. When you have experienced players with large contracts, they're naturally going to get opportunities to prove their value. That is simply how baseball works at this level. But at the same time, younger players who perform well in the minors or during spring training keep building pressure for a chance. It becomes a delicate balance between loyalty to veterans and the need to inject energy and production into the lineup. What makes this situation even more interesting is that performance always changes everything. A player can start the season slowly, and suddenly the conversation shifts. If someone struggles offensively or defensively, the organization has to consider other options. That is usually when prospects get their opportunity to come up and make an impact. But until that moment arrives, the team often sticks with the original plan, hoping that experience and track record will eventually win out over early season inconsistency. Another factor that cannot be ignored is how important depth becomes over a full season. Injuries are inevitable, slumps are inevitable, and unexpected situations always appear. Teams that have reliable players ready to step in usually have a huge advantage by the time the season reaches the later months. So even if some players are not on a major league roster right away, that does not mean they're not part of the plan. In many cases, they end up playing crucial roles when the team needs them the most. Pitching will also play a massive role in determining how far this team can go. Starting pitching, in particular, often sets the tone for the entire season. When the rotation is strong and consistent, it takes pressure off the offense and the bullpen. That is why performances from key starters early in the season are so important. They help establish rhythm, confidence, and stability for the entire roster. When starters go deep into games and keep the team competitive, everything else tends to fall into place more naturally. Offensively, the Yankees will once again rely on power, but there is also a growing emphasis on balance and situational hitting. In recent years, teams have started to realize that relying only on home runs can be risky, especially in tight games or postseason situations. Manufacturing runs, moving runners, and taking advantage of small opportunities often makes the difference in close games. If the lineup can combine power with consistency and discipline at the plate, it becomes much more dangerous and much harder for opposing pitchers to navigate. Defense is another area that sometimes gets overlooked but can quietly decide many games throughout the season. A great defensive play can completely change momentum, save runs, and energize the entire team. Strong defense up the middle, especially in center field, shortstop, and second base, usually makes a huge difference over 162 games. Teams that limit mistakes and play clean baseball often find themselves in a much better position when the standings start to tighten later in the year. As the weeks go by, the identity of the team will start to become clearer. Some players will exceed expectations, others will struggle, and new storylines will emerge that no one saw coming. That is the beauty of a baseball season, because it is long, unpredictable, and full of adjustments. Teams that adapt the fastest and make smart decisions along the way usually end up in the best position when the most important games arrive. For the Yankees, expectations are always high, and every season is measured by how far the team goes, not just how it starts. Opening day is exciting, But it is only the beginning of a very long journey filled with ups and downs, hot streaks and slumps, injuries and breakout performances. The key is staying consistent, staying competitive, and putting the team in a position to succeed when the season reaches its most important moments. And as this new season begins, there is already a sense that there will be plenty of storylines, challenges, and big moments still waiting to unfold. As the season continues, another important element to watch will be how the coaching staff manages player development throughout the year. A long season is not just about the players who start on opening day, but also about the adjustments that are made along the way. Some players will need time to find their rhythm, while others may surprise everyone with unexpected performances. Managing playing time, keeping players healthy, and making the right decisions at the right moments often separates good teams from great teams by the end of the year. There's also the mental side of the game, which becomes more important as the season progresses. Baseball is a sport of failure and adjustments, and even the best players go through difficult stretches. The teams that handle those moments better, that stay focused and do not panic during losing streaks, are usually the ones that remain competitive deep into the season. Leadership inside the clubhouse plays a huge role in that, especially from veteran players who understand how long and demanding the season really is. Another interesting aspect will be how the team performs against strong opponents throughout the year. Regular season games against top teams often feel like postseason previews, and those matchups can reveal a lot about a team's strengths and weaknesses. Pitching matchups become more intense, defensive mistakes become more costly, and timely hitting becomes even more important. Those games often give a clearer picture of whether a team is truly ready to compete at the highest level. As the months pass and the standings begin to take shape, every game starts to feel more important. Early season games matter just as much as late season games in the standings, but the pressure definitely feels different as the season moves forward. Teams start scoreboard watching, fans start calculating playoff scenarios, and every series can change momentum. That is when depth, experience, and consistency really start to make a difference. And the teams that handle that pressure the best are usually the ones still playing when the season reaches its final stage. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. In a move that is already sending shockwaves through the baseball world, whispers are growing louder that a blockbuster reinforcement may be on its way to the Bronx. Sources close to the situation suggest that Jacob deGrom, the ace right-hander currently tied to Texas, could be heading to the New York Yankees in what would instantly reshape the balance of power across the league. The speculation began quietly, almost as background noise in a season filled with expectations, but it has rapidly gained traction. Insiders hint at internal discussions within the Yankees organization focused on strengthening their rotation with a proven elite arm. Few names carry the weight and dominance that deGrom does when healthy, and the mere possibility of his arrival has ignited the imagination of fans. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.